Welcome back to another episode of Ballroom Chat, the podcast dedicated to sharing the dance journey. I'm your host, Samantha with Love.Live.Dance. Today, I'm joined by Sid Pocius. He is the organizer of the South Open Dancesport Championship, the Sarasota Challenge, Encore Dancesport Competition, and the Florida State Dancesport Competition. He was a former Lithuanian national amateur champion and is the current owner of Empire Ballroom Studios. I got the opportunity to sit down and talk with him today a little bit about his background in amateur dance sport, his take on the word dance sport itself and the balance between artistry and sport, as well as got an inside look on all of his competitions. And we talk a little bit about the behind-the-scenes information that competitors should know when they are picking a competition, and just to have a general better respect for the organizers and the effort put into competitions when they are attending. So great conversation with Sid. Please enjoy. Well, thank you, Sid, so much for being a guest on today's podcast.
You're welcome. It's good to be here, Samantha. It's good to be.
So I mentioned in the introduction that you are a many times over organizer of events. You are also a former national amateur champion, and you are a studio owner. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into dance sport, kind of the trajectory that took you from amateur dancer to now entrepreneur, studio owner, and event organizer?
So when I was 6 years old in Lithuania, that's where I'm from, we are very lucky, or we were, and we still are, meaning back in Lithuania, but we had very famous dance school, ballroom dance school. The teachers were recognized everywhere, and couples were winning back then was in Soviet Union. So they would not teach just everyone. You had to make an audition, and they were collecting new group class for children, and my mom took me for audition, and I made a cut, and I started taking lessons, and then competition started. So, and I did good right from the get-go, and I got competitive, and I got very motivated. The main motivation was that my teacher said, if you're gonna win, you're gonna go to different city, meaning to the regional competition or national competition. And I don't know why, but I love traveling. So I really worked very hard. I practiced at home whenever I had free time. So I would win. And of course, if I would win, I would go to other camp. So yeah, I started dancing and never doubted that I don't want to dance. And then when I became a teenager, because ballroom lessons are very expensive, as you know, it's not a cheap hobby to have. And my parents were just middle class workers, so I always needed some pocket change. And my classmate said, "How about you teach us to dance, and we'll chip in whatever you want for that class." I said, well, that's a good idea. So everybody chipped in, I don't know, about $1 or whatever in our currency. And I gave them a class. I remember what was samba, actually, and they loved it. And then after that, I'm like, that's, it helps, definitely. So I started teaching since I was 15. Dancing, teaching, and then by 18, I opened my dance studio. I opened my own dance studio, and then when I moved here to United States, I loved having studio, meaning teaching, and the main reason why I kept dancing, it was competitions. That's the main reason what drove me, it's competitions. And simultaneously, I thought, okay, that would be so fun to run one. And here we are, I'm running them.
It comes full circle from the student that wanted to go to the competitions to see the world to now being the organizer that's bringing those students to their event, which I love. So you opened your own studio at 18. The national title you received at 13, is that correct?
Yes. But yes, that's I was top in Lithuania. Yeah.
So was that title in 10 dance, or were you specialized in either Latin or
It was
standard?
both. It was at first for Latin and standard in different ages. 1 year was all Latin very good, another year was standard. And then we had for youth, I believe it was 10 dance championship. Yeah.
Okay. And then since moving to the United States, are you still primarily teaching Latin and standard, or do you teach a little bit of everything now?
A little bit of everything, including theater arts. Yes. That's the beauty. It is about American style. It is so much fun, and it's student friendly. So I love all the styles. I really do. So yeah, I don't teach that much, mostly coaching. So once comes, I have couples coming or going to the studios, coaching or choreographing, actually, yeah, all the styles.
Yeah. I was listening to an interview that you gave a couple years back with I believe it's Igor, where you were talking about the fact that we refer to what we do as dance sport as so important because it's a balance between artistry and athleticism. It's a balance between telling the story through dance and telling the story through the sport. Since you are branching out not only from just Latin and standard, but also into the American styles, and you mentioned theater arts, when you're coaching or helping someone with their choreography, how do you strike that balance between artistry and athleticism?
That's a constant debate, but it also depends, once you have a dancer, you eliminate dancer's weakness, so possibilities, and then also you want to highlight the strength. If I have, let's take a senior couple, senior gentleman or lady, any age, I'm not going to start putting athleticism as a strength and choreographing splits and double spins and other tricks. Yeah. And vice versa. If somebody sees very athletic, you're going to highlight that. Some people natural, they are artists. Some people natural, very musical. I met so many dancers actually who are haven't took much lessons or haven't trained for that long, but they are beautiful dancers. And then I start working with them or talking, I'm realizing they just a gift, I guess, talent. They have a talent for musicality, expression, and it's very easy for them. End of the day, they have to learn technique, absolutely, yeah, but I want to mention the names, but even in our US, I know some dancers who didn't have much training to begin with. And then the only ones became in finals, they started taking lessons, actually. I'm a little bit exaggerating, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. So talking kind of about highlighting strengths and weaknesses, you're also a judge and adjudicator. So can you identify, and I don't want you to name names, obviously, but on a general level, when you're watching a couple, can you immediately pick out like this is a couple whose strength is really connecting with the music, or this is a couple who is very athletic in their movement and they need to lean into that more because as a judge, I can tell that that's what their body wants to do?
You can tell, yes. Well, you never know. It's hard for performance, absolutely. I guess if somebody is expressive and somebody you can see that they're very musical and they utilize every opportunity to for showmanship and characterization of the dance, you can tell then, that he or she is good in that. But does not mean if I have a couple who, let's take, more reserved and very technical and or very athletic, it does not mean they're not that artistic. They simply maybe priority it is set differently, and that's the stage they're taking, first. So yeah, you cannot tell, but I definitely can tell when someone has that plus they have this benefit of the athleticism or artistry.
Gotcha. You mentioned that when you were a youth competitor, the studio that you were training out of required an audition before they would actually accept you on as a student. So kind of thinking in that same vein of like seeing someone's potential and wanting to lean into it, what was the audition process actually like, and what do you look for in someone that is 7, 8, 9 years old? Do you look at their ability as they are, or as the potential and the eagerness for growth later through their years?
I'm not sure what they were looking. I never asked them. But one thing you should understand, back then, and I think it's actually the situation changed, but back then, we didn't have that many good dance schools. Now, actually, in Lithuania, it's we have so many good dancers. But back then, we didn't have that many. But people who wanted to dance, meaning that to take their children, there were so many. So they could not literally take 70 people and have 70 children and have a productive group class. So they had to cut in half at least. I don't remember how many, but I would say about, I think 20 children were in that group, or 30 maybe, but max. And I remember it was a huge ballroom. So, and simply cut in half we had to do some dancing, some little jumping and some spins, I think. I forgot. But the way you stand, by the way you hear music, I remember clapping, exactly, musical playing and clapping. So I guess that's how you just pick very quick. This has a little bit rhythm. That's a little bit, he knows how to stand up straight. And I think back then already the coach said couple, they said spin, they taught a couple things, and she looked how we were responding to it. So, and very quick, if somebody's just standing a child and picking up the nose instead of clapping, I have probably not that much chances they're gonna make a cut.
Sure. It's so.
But now it's different. Yeah. They just take everyone as long as you pay, and yeah.
Yeah. I would say the majority of dance instruction here in the U.S. is more adult focused, but you do have a youth component, obviously. Do you think, as we move forward, that the mindset of having a highly competitive location that does require some sort of buy-in or some sort of, I want to say, like, commitment from a young student up front is a good model to have? Or do you think, no, like, let's just open the dance studios, let's have it so that everybody's welcome, and if a student becomes a world champion, awesome, but that's not necessarily the main focus? Do you think there's a balance, or do you think it's all or one?
It really, everybody can dance, and doesn't matter what age. If you see a talent walking through your studio, you're gonna guide, and maybe you put somewhere in the more competitive for youth studio, because some studios are more specialized, working with children, more with pro-am. The beauty what I see in the United States is that more and more children dancing. So I guess obviously those parents, lots of parents, immigrants, their children. So we have wonderful talent, and they're taking the great placements, amazing results in the world. Um, our youth talent from United States. Um, yeah, I guess maybe we cannot compete much with Asia and Russia with those ones because we have too much, I'm sorry, not too much democracy, but we have a beautiful democracy. So children can choose. But once again, I think balance is very important. But once you have this beauty of freedom to choose, and once you have a talent, if children choose to take it more seriously, that's wonderful. Or parents, they decide to go to that route, make it very competitive. And I know a few parents, their children, they work very hard all day long, and the results are great. They're winning, so that's good. That's wonderful.
Let's talk a little bit about the different events that you organize. South Open, I want to say is far off in the future, but it's really not, is it? It's right around the corner.
This is it. We already putting dots on the ice, like crossing all the T's, because deadline it's in 2 weeks. We have entries already. We're giving all the numbers to the hotel, and everything, all the trophies already ordered, medals ordered, gifts for dancers ordered, menus created. This is, yeah, because South Open, we are very fortunate to see what's, became one of the premier events in the United States. So people already sending entries and preparing way in advance. So definitely it helps to, as organizer, to get ready earlier. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that maybe aren't as familiar, and we'll kind of start with South Open. So South Open is held this year at the JW Marriott, just outside of Disney, correct?
I'm not sure how far it's from Disney, but it's pretty close. It's Orlando, so I think it's like 10-minute drive to Disney.
Yeah. So I've been seeing all of the posts come out, but I want to hear from you the theme, the special thing that will encourage people to come out this year. What is unique about your process this year? Because I know you theme everything a little bit different year after year. So what is this year's plan?
One theme what is always consistent is holiday, because we love holidays, and that's a very special, and I think, and it's just good for people. It's good for humanity. Just get together on the holidays for once, and just doesn't matter what religion you are, you just celebrate that. But then, for example, we have a different activities. It's a whole package of experience. Starting from scholarships, we have scholarship for all the ages. We're giving like $500 for first place, which is, I think, is nobody gives more, and the senior or any age. And then we have the team match. This year team match, it is a Disney theme. So we're gonna have real Mickey gonna show up with mini Mickey, and then Donald Duck and other characters. So that's a fun thing. We're gonna start South Open actually right in the year. We are going to take a air balloon ride right on Wednesday morning. So, and then once we land, we take some lunch, we maybe get some nap, because in the evening we have a nightclub session. Nightclub session, we still don't know what's going to happen, because we might actually going to be outside by the swimming pool. Yeah, so it's but that's we don't want to get caught up in the rain, or don't want to get up in windy. But so that's a little bit we're talking to hotel. Only one about nightclub, but nevertheless, it's going to be amazing. It's a disco theme. Then nighttime is going to be disco theme. What else? And seminars. We have a great seminars on Friday and Saturday by world champions. If you can look at Katyusha Demidova, Karina Smirnov, and Eugene Kasserman, and David Hamilton. So what else? So we have every aspect from competitive. Our divisions have quarterfinals, semifinals, some depending. Hotel, people asking to stay later because the hotel is really beautiful, JW, so we're gonna stay later. So from vacation to really serious seasoned competitors.
There you go. Let's talk a little bit about the team match. So I have heard of team matches. I have experienced watching and cheering team matches on from the sidelines, mostly either professional team matches or amateur team matches, but you're running a pro-am team match, and it looks like anybody can sign up if they want. So talk us through what a team match is, how it works, and what it means to be a pro-am competitor that's participating in such an event.
Oh, that those who participate, they have to have nerves as a steel. Just kidding. Every team has a captain, and our captains are listed. They are great captains. So, and once you participate, every heat, let's take Waltz, every team sends a representative of their team, and that's how they collect the points from each dance, each division. And the category on what will be judged, absolutely on the dancing, but we have an element of showmanship and fun, and maybe we're gonna throw something also as a surprise, because we have enough serious events like scholarships and championships and all those. So this one, we have a twist, a little twist to make it just exciting. But yes, Pro-Am what it is as a professional, but it has one student or can be two students, depending. So a couple it is pro and amateur. So no professionals in the Pro-Am, no just amateur. So it has to be one pro and one amateur.
So I'm thinking about the team matches at Blackpool or other large events where you kind of have country on country or studio on studio. Yeah. In an event like this, you still have your team captains, but it at least from the registration, it looks like it's open to anyone putting their name in the pool. How are the team captains going to decide who gets to dance waltz and who gets to dance cha-cha, and how does that process work kind of behind the scenes?
That would be teamwork. So a captain, they say, okay, you dance that dance, but first those people who registered first, they're the ones who can pick and have a priority. So they request, I want to do waltz and tango. Somebody says I want to do samba. Obviously, they have priority. But if some dancer will collapse, the captain will decide. That's the beauty, and it is to get together and see, okay, what we can do to make it fun, or what dance you want to participate represent.
And it looks like they're themed. You mentioned some of the Disney characters. So is the intention to have, Donald Duck have their team be in all blue and maybe come out with little like duck quackers, or is that going to be on the individual team?
This is a moment where I would like to leave a little bit room for suspense.
There we go.
Because if I spill all the beans now, so it's not that much. Actually, I was also debating, should I tell about their team to the people? But then I thought, okay, people have to get excited, or they have to at least to know what to expect. So that's a team. We have a captains. We have real Minnie Mouse and Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and somebody else showing up. So, but we're leaving some room for suspense.
All right. Well,
But
we will
yeah,
move away from the South Open before I pull all of the teasers out
all the
of you,
secrets.
all of
Oh
the
yeah.
secrets.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the other three events that you are an organizer for: Sarasota Challenge, Encore Dancesport, and Florida State Dancesport. Give us kind of the 30-second elevator pitch. What is unique about each of those three, and a little bit about each event.
Yeah. So South Open happens always in December, first week of December. And then in March, it is a Sarasota Challenge. It's a 1 day competition in Sarasota. It's always third week of Sarasota. And Sarasota Challenge holds a record in the world as the biggest competition ever held. A few years ago, we had competition, we had Sarasota Challenge, and it was over 6,000 inches in 1 day. It's 1 day. So some events happened, had over 5,000, but nobody ever done more than 6,000. So our ballroom actually was divided in three parts. So we had actually three ballrooms happening at once. Big panel of judges. So that was big monster event. So it was really an experience, a lifetime experience, because it was from 1 till 9, ballroom was huge. The people were everywhere. You couldn't go through. But that was great experience. But after that, I decided to put a limit, make sure that we have a good quality for dancers to experience. So we wouldn't have to rush. We had enough space on the floor. We would not run late, or we would not start too early. So that is very important. So after that, actually, so it is just a medium size, a great size, a fun event. Once again, it's about experience. For me, I think once you invest time in your dancing, when you invest finances in your dancing, and ballroom dancing, it's a little bit more about glamour. It's about the beauty as well. So you don't want to end up at some kind of location or venue to dance on the tiles and then don't have any appreciation from audience or officials and organizers. So I'm putting a great effort that besides the dancing part, people would enjoy experience. So that's like Sarasota Challenge. It's a beautiful hotel. It's a Hyatt Regency right in downtown Sarasota. So if you want to walk in, you have a great places to go to see water view, bay view, cafes, shops, and weather. It's great. So that's what it's all about. It's an experience, a competition, 1 day competition. Ballroom, it's a pretty big ballroom there. So space to dance, good. And they do not allow, they have a limit on how many couples can attend, how many inches. So as I mentioned before, but we still hold the titles of the biggest record. So it's not going to be biggest anymore. So that's a sort of challenge. The next competition, it is a Florida State Dancesport Championships in August. So that one is a new one for me because it's been run for 50 years. It's going to be a 50th anniversary. Of course, the minus just last year, so because of pandemic. And it was run in the past under Larry Dean guidance. So he was organized. And so once he retired, there were some transition, so I decided to take it over because once again, it's in Sarasota. I live in Sarasota. I just live in Sarasota. It's a beautiful city, and Florida State, it happens be in Sarasota. So, and I'm organizing, and this year is going to be the first time under my guidance, and I'm producing it. I'm working already on it. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but Florida State, it used to be the biggest competition in the world. Lots of people don't know because they remember the name the Breakers. They say the Breakers, the Breakers, but that's a Florida State. Breakers was a hotel, so where Florida State competition took place, and people would call the Breakers because of the hotel. But in 1980s, that's when, if you know Donnie Burns, of course, Donnie Burns, everybody would come and compete. Because if you don't compete at the Florida State Breakers, it's one of the biggest competitions. So we'll see, but it's a nice history has. As I said, 50 years, it's not a joke to run for 50 years. It has a beautiful history. Lots of world champions went through this event. And it's going to happen August 3rd through 7th. And it's going to happen at the Ritz-Carlton. Yeah, so it's a gorgeous hotel. You know, you cannot go wrong with it. It's once again, it's an experience by itself. Competing, it's a 4-day event at the beautiful hotel, beautiful city, and great time of the year. And then the fourth event, which I ran, Encore. It's in September. It's a 1-day as well. It's in Palm Beach, West Palm Beach downtown, so the Hilton. It's a fun pro-am, with focus only about pro-am event.
So I want to kind of wrap back around to Sarasota Challenge because I'm trying to process the idea of having 6,000 entries for a 1-day event. I mean, that number is a multi-day. I mean, that's a lot of entries. So I completely understand as an organizer after experiencing that saying, okay, whoa, we need to make a change here. And minimizing the number of, or limiting the number of entries and limiting the number of couples. When the year that happened, were you just watching the entries roll in going, okay, they're going to stop at some point, right? Like they're
exactly. Just for the record, competition ran by the NDCA rules. We still did not have more couples were allowed, and we had a humongous dance floor. So everything was by the rules. Everything went successful. However, we were pushing the limits.
Right.
So we were pushing the limit. So that's why, and I decided I wanted that stress. And for some people, it is too much because yes, the ballroom unit was, I believe, almost it was over 5,500 square feet, or 5,500 square feet floor. So we divided. We had plenty of space to dance on each ballroom because we had 3 ballrooms. But we just decided, yes, let's stick to medium size. But back then, yes, what happened, because people literally love Sarasota Challenge because of the location and time of the year. And we do give a lot to the students. We have like always handmade unique prizes, and we special order. We do not spare change on the gifts. So we knew that people they were asking to come. But as you say, I thought, okay, deadline passed. That's it. No, they kept coming. They kept coming. People adding, and we could not say no. That's it. Stop, because lots of what happened actually, lots of students apologized that they're sending too late. And meaning, so because he said, okay, we cannot accept anymore. Say, but no, what I'm going to tell to my students, because especially the teachers are sending, because you've been waiting for a few months already to participate.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, I just realized I'd never sent you an inches. So if I would don't accept it, would have been a little bit not good on neither side.
Right.
So that's what happened. They kept sending, and we ended up having more than we expected. But yeah,
So
we still managed to run smoothly.
Yeah. So let's talk about that real quick. So I'm a member of NDCA, and I got an email a couple weeks back that, you know, there was a committee meeting, and it was just a friendly reminder to professionals in the industry that we need to set the tone for ourselves and for our students to make sure that the organizers that are putting these events on feel like we are respecting their events, respecting the rules, respecting the timeline, and that we're encouraging our students to also respect the event. And one of the big things that was brought up was, please adhere to the deadlines that are posted. Because it does put the organizers in a really uncomfortable position when entries are received late. Because what are you going to do? Are you going to tell the students that are putting their paperwork in, I'm sorry, your teacher didn't get us your packet in time, we can't have you compete, please cancel your plane tickets? Or you're put in the other situation of accepting that, and maybe you've already gone past your hotel quota, or you've gone past the capacity for the ballroom, and now you're looking to expand the space. So can you talk to me a little bit about the organizer side of these events and what we as a dance community can be doing to support you and support the event to make sure that everyone is having a positive experience, whether it's a one-day comp or a multi-day comp?
I was so glad once I saw that email and they say sent. Yes, because it's so true. It makes so much more difficult to organizer once entries coming the last second. But we cannot forget one thing, why it especially now happened that way. We had a pandemic for 2 years now, isn't it?
2 years.
Ridiculous, isn't it? Crazy.
Yeah.
So nobody knew will competition gonna run? Will the student gonna be all professional, healthy enough to go, or maybe we'll end up catching the COVID the last week? So because of uncertainty, they would not enter competition. And then once they say, you know what, there is a competition, let's try to enter. It's only 2 weeks left, or even 1 week left. They call to an organizer, say, hey, will you accept entries? Organizer says yes, because a lot of times, we don't have enough entries, especially nowadays. So once you accepted one time, so another competition you go, hey, they're going to be accepting. You talk with other friends of studios, did you send entries yet? No, not yet. Okay, so I'll send later. So it became somewhat a culture that, I'm going to send entries after the deadline. However, yes, studios do not realize that we as organizers, very often we have to pay to hotel 30 days before for the food, for the drinks, beverages, for the hotel rooms, for the ballroom, equipment, lights, decorations. I'm not talking about advertising, that's separate. And very often those things like hotel, all those bills, they're even non-refundable. It depends, what kind of contract you have with the venue, but very often it is. So And it puts a huge toll on organizing. If you prepare for that and you have no entries, and then, or you assuming you're going to have a certain amount of entries, so you do something about it, and then all of a sudden, unexpectedly, last week you have some entries, and of course you're going to take them because you have to pay bills. But then, at the same token, you didn't prepare to have so many entries. So you had less judges, or you decided to take a smaller room in the ballroom, or you also make another arrangements. So it makes it really difficult. So if a studio can send entries before the deadline, it's a huge help. And I'm gonna give away a secret. We organizers, judges, we know who is late and we know who is organized. And it really helps once your name is mentioned as you organized. Just put it out there.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, if you have a studio that, you know, always meets the early bird deadline, as an organizer, you're like, great, I can
reality
count.
what it is. Those people who send entries earlier, I'm able to, you know, it's not a big deal for other people, but it's still nice to get a nicer room, nicer table to sit, to get priority over other things, because we want to appreciate those studios, those dancers. So it just really has some perks to enter ahead before. And those people who in the last second, you know, I'm going to absolutely do my best to accommodate and let them participate, but they can't expect nothing. nothing good. They might get a room in the hotel if they're lucky, or they have some seat maybe in another ballroom. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing that I constantly hear about your events in particular is that you do try to go the extra mile to make sure that everyone has a positive experience. You mentioned that, you know, you spare no expense when it talks about participant gifts. So what are those small little things that perhaps from a student perspective we appreciate? Obviously, we appreciate when we get, or we're instructors, when we're able to have our students experience that. We can know that the organizer has gone the extra mile, but we don't necessarily understand the full process or the full stress that goes into making sure that those small little touches really land the impact that you're wanting them to land.
I guess it helps because I have a studio and I was teaching, and I'm still teaching. I have a students program, so I'm putting myself in their shoes. If I spend, I don't know who's charging what, but we're talking about thousands of dollars. Maybe we're talking 1, 2, if we do very little, or we might put much more if you go full out on the full packages and dancing a lot. So in any case, it is lots of money. So if you go and then you don't feel appreciated, I don't think it puts a good taste for anyone. It does not help for the business. It does not help to the student. It doesn't help to anyone. So from the beginning to the end, from the beginning of the event to the end of the event, from A to Z, I want to make sure that student and professional is appreciated. From coming to entering the lobby, entering the room, to whoever sees the first, whoever you register the first, would be hotel or event, they know that you arrived, that the participant arrived, because it's a very special to me, participant, because it's besides even financial part, you spend your time preparing. So you're looking forward, you're practicing, you have goals. So those participants, for me, they are stars. They're literally celebrities. I'm always comparing ballroom dancing with cruises. Cruises, you go, it's a big service. And if you think on the cruise, anybody can go. You don't have to be a special. You can be a regular person. You don't have to spend any time to prepare. You just give a credit card, go on the cruise. It's not the case in ballroom dancing. You can have a credit card, but it means nothing. You need to find a proper partner, either amateur or professional, compatible. You have to make sure you spend some time practicing. You have to make sure that you're capable to learn and to achieve a certain level required for the category to enter. And then maybe you'll be able to enter competition depending on other circumstances. So you take a special person, a team, an opportunity to enter, and plus you have to also to pay, as we talked, quite a bit. So every participant for me is a star. So it's a true celebrity. So and if they come and they are treated less than that, for me personally, it's unacceptable.
I like that. And I like that analogy that, when you sign up to go to a cruise, there's a certain expectation that you're going to be taken care of. But when you walk into a ballroom competition, it's so much higher because that person has spent and dedicated so much time and effort and money in order to go on that cruise experience. So to have it be something where you can just walk into the hotel and know that you're going to be taken care of and that you can just get to the business of dancing and enjoying the event, that's the difference between a competition that someone's going to go back to and a competition that someone says, okay, I went there, never going back. Let's talk about that, kind of creating that same atmosphere in the studio, because you're kind of setting that level of expectation day one when a new student walks into the studio that, hey, the more effort that you put into this, the more time that you dedicate to this, the more that you are committed to this sport, the more that you will get back as a result, the more that you'll feel taken care of, the more that you will that the experience will come full circle. So as a studio organizer or as a studio owner and as a pro-am instructor, how do you kind of set the tone every lesson that, hey, I've got you covered and that we're in this together and that you do not have to worry when you're in my environment?
That's the beauty about our ballroom dancing as an art and our competition as a form of the event. Because when you take lessons, once you learn to dance, you cannot be too good. It's impossible to achieve perfection. It's a limitless possibilities. At the same time, because as we talked earlier in the interview, we are all different. So, and because of the gentle form, we can set the limit. We can set the bar how good we want or we can be. Mm-hmm. And I love seeing people dancing with any walks of life. Even people sitting in the chair, learning to dance and you utilizing music and connection and partnership, characterization. So beautiful. And then you see them growing and growing and growing to couples who just coming for us being maybe a date night in the studio, do something romantic, and you see they flourishing and they're becoming happy and they're finding again this new sparkle in their lives. It is beautiful. And each time you see she learns how to put hand on him and he sees, you can see that he's much more respectful to the lady in the leading way or in the frame or so on. So it is beautiful to watch how they grow. Or take to very athletic people, maybe even younger people, so how they nailing and progressing. So that's wonderful. And at the events, that's why we have all the divisions. From proficiency, you just compete against yourself. That's you are your own competition. To rising star events. By the way, which I always have at my events, it's a rising star also for the levels pro am and amateurs. To from the bronze newcomer all the way to gold. So that's a beauty that they can choose. And that's actually majority of the dancers are, and they should be, because the good professional level dancer, it can be just very, very little percentage. It's a 0.00 could be. Majority of people, they do that for many, many different reasons. With the exercise, all the benefits. And that's what beauty is about us. And I'm maybe biased, obviously, because that's my life, ballroom dancing. But when you compare with other sports, it's nothing that's got close. That would occupy all the elements of your body and all your elements of your as a human development, from the mind and soul and from in and out.
Well, and kind of going back to the first conversation that we had with this interview, that's the balance of dance sport, right? You have the athleticism, you have the physical aspect, but it's a partner sport. So you're learning how to connect and communicate with another individual and empathize and sympathize. And it's also a performance art. So you've got the artistry and the motion and the music, and especially as you're learning patterns that connects different neural pathways in your brain. And it is a full body and full soul experience that is very unique to what we do.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And that's a little bit very difficult subject when it comes to Olympics. Some people debate, because of that, athleticism and artistry. So it's a big subject, and absolutely, I would love to see ballroom dancing in the Olympics. But on the same token, do you want to lose all the tradition which we created for 100 years of the artistry, of the tradition? Do you want to lose that? Because definitely it's going to be lost.
Yeah. Well,
it's going to be gained a lot, obviously, because of all the new system and new criteria of the judging, what requires in the Olympics of sport. But so that's a subject. For me, it would be very difficult.
Yeah, it's a tricky topic. Whenever I have students that ask me about, the future of ballroom dancing, is it going to be an Olympic sport? I say, well, how do you feel when you watch pairs figure skating and you watch a couple and you're moved to tears, but the Russian judge gives them a bad score because their double turn was only a turn and a half, or some small technical element was taken away from the artistry, or the French judge just didn't like their costuming and didn't like their music, so they scored them down. That's what our sport would become, is there's so much technical that has to be balanced with the subjective. And I think we have enough difficulty with that at our regular competitions, let alone let's put it on, an international stage at the Olympics.
Yeah. That's true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Maybe there's a way to make it separate style. I'm not sure. Just for that.
Yeah. Topics for people above my pay grade, I imagine, to have to see about balancing and see if that's something that is in the future for ballroom dancing. Well, awesome. So is there anything else that you would like to talk to our listeners about? Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners? Any insight or tricks or tips that you want us to kind of think about as we go through the week moving forward?
Yes, as we talked, tip, send your entries before deadline.
Yes.
But it was great chatting with you. I loved sharing a little bit about my events myself. Then I just pray and I'm sending all the vibes that, our industry is going to grow and no virus is going to affect anymore. And it's just going to become bigger and stronger. And I'm sure it's going to be, because that's what beautiful about dancing. It is, no matter where, no matter when, dancing, it was always in people's lives, one way or another. That's the best thing what we can do when we are happy or when we are sad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, actually, to that thought, as a competition organizer, are you with the last 2 years being the last 2 years? I can't believe it's 2 years.
Exactly.
As you're looking at 2022 and 2023 and moving forward with events, are you trying to go back to the way that competitions were run in 2019, or are you making changes to how you are running events as a result of your experiences the last 2 years? And if you are making changes, what are those changes?
Honestly, when I'm looking my events and talking with other organizers, I don't see many changes. Only one, myself, at least, I'm just aware of the space. So like a JW this year, again, I booked the biggest ballroom possible, so 30,000 square foot ballroom, making sure that people would not get crunched. So that's, for me, it's important. Although now with all the vaccines and seems like it's a little bit getting easier. So I'm not sure how it's going to be next year. Hopefully it will get much easier and we can go back to just all the normal. So the only one thing is, I guess, the spacing. And then depending on each county, whatever the requirements are regarding masks, regarding the capacity of people, if they still apply, but that's each county is differently, and organizers just follow the guidance of the county. But in my case here, I just making sure the spacing still very important.
Well, in the spacing, I mean, from a personal standpoint, this is just my two cents for whatever it's worth. I kind of like the idea of moving to bigger spaces. I know that puts more stress and financial burden on the organizers because obviously space comes at a price. But the idea of having a little bit of elbow room and having a little bit of space to like warm up and stretch in the ballroom, or just be able to space tables out a little bit more, or have more room for vendors or what have you, it's actually kind of a nice idea. If not for COVID reasons, maybe just, cold and flu reasons.
But I'll give you a little trick, which is what happens when it's a big space and even you have quite a few couples, but if you don't fill out the room, then the room looks a little bit empty and cold. And also, if you do not put money into decorating, into the lights, and you spend money into this renting the bigger ballroom. So for organizers, very often, if they don't have to, they're actually making smaller room that would get the feeling being crowded. That gives like a feeling that's a big event, well attended. It's cost less for organizer. It's in every aspect, less decoration, less lights in the room itself. So that's a trick I'm going to give the secret. So organizers actually trying to get the smallest space as possible. At least was the case before pandemic. Now, because of pandemic, was definitely is different. So actually, if you go next time to the competition, you can see that there is a partition in the ballroom, and there is nothing happening on the other side. Which, and they could have, in hotel, that often if it's nothing happened, we could have just open up and give it the entire ballroom, but it's, organizer chose, well, let's keep it just one part. So that's a little secret out.
There you go. It's like putting something at, $9.99 instead of $10. It just makes you feel a little bit better about.
Exactly. One of those things. Exactly. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sid, so much for being a guest today on the podcast.
And thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
It was nice chatting with you.
Yes.
And yes, best greetings to all your listeners.
Excellent. Thank you once again to Sid for being a guest on today's podcast. If you are interested in any of his events, maybe taking a lesson at his studio, or just learning more about him as a dancer and entrepreneur, the links are included below. Also, if you are thinking about competing in the South Open Dancesport Championships this year and you have not yet gotten your entry in, the deadline is also included with those links. So please do make sure that you get your entries in soon. As always, I am Samantha. I'm your host from Love.Live.Dance. You can follow us on social media at Ballroom Chat on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find all of the podcast versions of these episodes at ballroomchat.com, or you can watch the YouTube videos at Love.Live.Dance YouTube channel. If you have not already done so, please do make sure that you have hit the like, subscribe, or follow button, depending on what platform you are experiencing this podcast through. Once again, we do have a Patreon channel. We mentioned it last time. There is a Patreon page. So if you are interested in supporting this podcast, you can do so there. And as always, stay safe, stay positive, get your flu shot if you have not already, and we hope to see you dancing very soon.